You know that feeling you get when something's just off? Not a sound, not a sight. Just a low, pressing weight in your chest, like the air itself has thickened. Every creak feels louder. Every shadow seems to breathe. That was the feeling I had that night at Target. I was 6 hours into my night shift, sorting through the endless waves of inventory we rolled out after closing. Electronics was my area. Headphones, TVs, tablets, the bright and shiny distractions that most people couldn't live without. It was usually peaceful this late. I was restocking a row of Bluetooth speakers when I noticed a man. At first, just a passing glance, he was lingering near the TV displays, hands shoved deep into the pockets of his gray hoodie, the hood tugged low. Nothing too unusual, I told myself. People wander. Maybe he was just waiting for someone, maybe he was just browsing. But when I moved aisles, so did he. When I kneeled down to organize a bottom shelf, I caught him, in my peripheral vision, half crouching too, pretending to look at something he hadn't even touched. And when I stood up and shifted a few feet to the side, he moved again. Not toward anything on the shelves, toward me. That was the first time a real wave of cold washed over me. I instinctively reached for my radio, ready to call for backup. Nothing, just static. I smacked the side of it a few times, but it was dead. Of all nights, I thought. Still, I told myself I was overreacting. Maybe the guy was just awkward. Maybe he needed help and didn't know how to ask. Or maybe a darker voice inside whispered, "He's waiting for you to be alone." I didn't want to believe that voice. So, I kept working. Minutes later, I felt the air shift behind me. I turned slightly, and there he was, half a dozen feet away now, his phone angled at me, his eyes flicking up when he saw I noticed. There was no pretending anymore. He wasn't shopping, he was watching, and he was recording. My heart jackhammered against my ribs, and for a moment I felt like a trapped animal, my instincts warring between run and freeze. That's when I heard her. "There you are." A woman's voice, bright, familiar, almost too loud. I turned and saw her. Late 20s maybe, short brown hair tucked under a baseball cap, wearing jeans and a faded hoodie like she belonged here. She marched straight up to me, grabbed my arm like we were old friends, and started talking a mile a minute. "God, I've been looking all over for you. We still doing that coffee after?" I was too stunned to answer. She leaned in close, and in a voice so low only I could hear, she said, "That guy's been recording you. Follow me." I didn't hesitate. The flood of gratitude I felt for her, this random good Samaritan who saw what I couldn't say out loud, nearly knocked me over. I let her guide me through the store, our steps quick but not frantic, like two friends heading somewhere, catching up on lost time. She kept chattering about nonsense, keeping the act up, and every now and then, I'd steal a glance behind us. The man was following, not rushing, just trailing, steady and confident. We weaved through home goods, past bedding, past seasonal decorations. Then I realized something was wrong. Very wrong. We weren't heading toward the front of the store where the night manager or security might be. We were heading toward the deserted side exit, the one near loading docks where the cameras barely reached. The emergency exit that stayed unlocked during the night shift for shipments. The exit nobody monitored after hours. I slowed down, tugged my arm. She tightened her grip. "Come on," she said, flashing me a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Almost there." Every instinct in my body started screaming. This wasn't a rescue. This was something else. I yanked my arm harder. She wouldn't let go. "Let's go," she said again, voice still fake friendly but layered now with something darker. "No," I said, louder than I intended. She yanked harder. I stumbled a step and that broke something inside me. I screamed. Just a raw, guttural noise from the deepest part of me. The kind of scream that makes people look, that makes security come running. And they did. Two guys from the back, jogging up, radios finally crackling to life. The woman dropped my arm instantly and took off toward the exit, disappearing into the night before anyone could stop her. The man? He vanished too. Darting down a side aisle and slipping out a fire door so fast it was almost like he was never there. But they were. Later that night, the footage told the full story. The man and the woman had entered the store together. minutes apart, acting like strangers, circling me, coordinating. The security manager played it back frame by frame. I watched myself, a tiny figure restocking shelves, oblivious to how many times they crossed paths behind me. How many times did they look at each other? It had been a plan, from the start. And the worst part? When the woman grabbed me, she called me by my name, my real name. I hadn't worn a name tag that night. Nobody else had said my name over the intercom. The only explanation was the simplest and the most horrifying. They had come there looking for me, specifically. To this day, I don't know how they found out who I was, and about the inheritance I had just received. I swear to God, it had to be because of that. Social media, maybe, or something worse. Some shadow I didn't even know I had left exposed. I changed my online profiles, deleted half my accounts, took a different shift, moved apartments. I did everything I could to disappear. But some nights, when I'm locking up after closing, I still get that feeling. And every so often, when the store is just too quiet, I'll swear I hear it. A voice, almost sweet, almost friendly, drifting out from the shadows. There you are. Most nights, the dive bar where I worked felt like a different world, sealed off from the chaos outside. The regulars were harmless enough. Tired truckers, old men nursing beers, the occasional lonely soul looking for company at the end of a long day. I liked it that way. Predictable, familiar. My name's Sloan, and for 3 years I'd been clocking into the Lantern at 6 p.m. and locking the doors behind me sometime after 2 a.m. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, and after a while, the low murmur of country music and the clink of glass against wood became a kind of comfort. Until the night he walked in. It was just after midnight on a Tuesday, one of those dead slow nights where the neon signs buzzed louder than the conversations. I was wiping down the bar when the door creaked open, and a man stepped inside. He looked, not in the way that makes you cross the street, but in the way that makes your instincts lean forward, alert. He wore a perfectly tailored dark suit, polished shoes that clicked on the scuffed floorboards. His hair was slicked back neatly, and he carried himself like he owned the place, or like he was slumming it for fun. The regulars barely glanced up, too deep into their beers and well-worn routines. But I couldn't look away. He slid onto a bar stool directly in front of me and smiled, sharp and deliberate. "Whiskey, neat," he said, his voice smooth as velvet. I poured his drink, feeling strangely self-conscious under his gaze. He didn't blink much, didn't fidget. Just watched me with an intensity that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. "Quiet place you have here," he said, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. "It's a quiet town," I replied, forcing a smile. He chuckled softly, like I'd told the best joke he'd heard all year. We chatted a little, small talk mostly. Where was I from? Did I like working nights? Did I live nearby? Harmless questions. But every answer I gave seemed to please him more than it should have. After one drink, he slid a crisp 20 onto the counter and rose from his stool. "Pleasure meeting you, Sloan," he said, using my name without ever having asked for it. I froze, the polite goodbye catching in my throat. Before I could say anything, he was gone, the door swinging shut behind him. I told myself he must have overheard someone use my name. Maybe he'd seen it on a tab. It didn't mean anything. But a week later, he came back. And this time, he wasn't alone. She was beautiful in a way that felt wrong, like a painting you couldn't stop staring at but knew you weren't supposed to touch. Dark red lips, high cheekbones, long hair pulled into a sleek ponytail. She wore a blood-red dress that clashed violently with the battered walls of the Lantern. They sat together at the bar, ordered expensive cocktails no one else ever asked for, and smiled at me like they knew a secret. After a while, the woman leaned in. "You're special," she said, twirling her straw between manicured fingers. "We can tell." "Tell what?" I asked, uneasy. She smiled wider. "That you're wasted here." The man slid a plain white card across the bar to me. On it was a phone number. No name, no company logo. "We host private events," he said smoothly. "Discreet, exclusive. You'd make a lot more money with us than you do here." I laughed, hoping it sounded casual and not as shaky as I felt. Thanks, but I'm happy where I am. The woman's smile faltered, just for a second. Think about it, she said. We'd hate to see talent like yours wasted. She said it lightly, but there was an undercurrent in her tone that made my stomach clench. They finished their drinks and left without another word, the card still sitting on the bar between us. I didn't touch it. I should have thrown it away. That night, after closing, I spotted headlights in the parking lot as I was locking up. At first, I thought it was one of the regulars, too drunk to drive home. But when I started walking to my car, the vehicle, a dark sedan, rolled forward, slowly matching my pace. My keys slipped from my fingers, clattering onto the pavement. The sedan idled, engine humming like a warning. I didn't wait to see what would happen next. I turned and sprinted back toward the bar, jamming my key into the lock with shaking hands. Inside, I killed the lights and peeked through the blinds. The car sat there for another 5 minutes, then slowly pulled away into the night. I didn't go home. I called my boss, Mitch, told him everything, and crashed in the office upstairs. For a few days, things returned to normal. Until she came back. It was a Sunday night, slow and heavy, with only 2 old-timers half asleep at the end of the bar. I was restocking the cooler when I heard the door creak open, and there she was. This time, she was alone. No bright dress, no flashy makeup. Just jeans, a black hoodie, and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I kept my face neutral and picked up the landline under the bar, pretending to wipe it with a rag as my thumb hovered over the call button. "Sloan," she cooed, "don't look so scared. I'm here to offer you one more chance." I opened my mouth to tell her to leave, to threaten to call the cops, when something caught my eye. Movement outside the window across the empty parking lot. I saw figures, 3, maybe 4, all dressed in black, faces obscured. My heart slammed against my ribs. The woman noticed where I was looking and smiled wider. "Just say yes," she said softly. "You won't regret it." I pressed the call button under the bar. Mitch's direct line. Come on, pick up," I begged silently. The woman stepped closer, slow and predatory. I backed away until the cooler dug into my hips. The door behind her burst open. Mitch barreled in, baseball bat in hand, his face twisted in fury. "Get out!" he bellowed. The woman froze just for a second, then turned on her heel and walked out, calm as you please. The figures outside scattered into the night. Mitch locked the door, double-bolted it, and pulled me into a hug so tight I thought he'd crack my ribs. The police came, took statements, reviewed the grainy security footage. But nothing ever came of it. The car's plates were fake. The figures outside were unidentifiable. The woman's prints didn't match anything in the system. They were ghosts, predators. And I had been their target. I quit night shifts after that. Hell, I quit bartending altogether. I moved across the state, got an office job, started living a life so boring and routine that even I sometimes can't believe I lived it. But every so often, when I'm locking my front door at night or walking across a dark parking lot, I feel that sense of eyes on me. And I wonder, if Mitch hadn't shown up when he did, or if I had said yes, where would I be now? I don't think I want to know. The thing about working nights at a remote gas station is that it warps your sense of time. Hours stretch and fold in on themselves. You live in a world of buzzing fluorescent lights, dusty snack aisles, and the occasional moth hurling itself against the glass door. My name's Dean. I'd been doing the night shift at a tiny station off Route 9 for about 6 months. It wasn't glamorous, but it was quiet, and quiet was something I thought I wanted. That changed after one night in late October. It started out normal enough. A few late-night truckers came through, grabbed coffee and jerky. A local teen in a rusted-out Civic bought a pack of gum and a $6 gas top-off. By midnight, the place was dead. Just me, the hum of the cooler, and the distant hiss of wind against the windows. I was restocking cigarettes behind the counter when I caught movement outside from the corner of my eye. Someone was standing by pump 3. At first, I figured maybe a car had pulled up and I hadn't heard it. I craned my neck for a better look. No car, just a man. He stood unnaturally still, arms hanging limp at his sides, staring blankly at the pump like he'd forgotten why he was there. His clothes were dark and unremarkable. Jeans, a jacket, hood up over his head. The skin on my arms prickled. Minutes passed. He didn't move. I tried to focus on my work, but my eyes kept drifting back to the window. Eventually, he turned, slowly, like someone dragging a heavy weight, and started walking toward the store. I straightened up and set the cigarettes aside, my heartbeat quickening. The door chimed as he entered. Up close, he looked older than I'd first thought. Late 30s, maybe. His face was lined and pale, his eyes flat and glassy. He stopped just inside the doorway. "Car broke down," he said, voice low and oddly calm. "Need a hand." Something about the way he said it made my stomach knot. Sure," I said, forcing a friendly tone. "Where's your car?" He jerked his thumb over his shoulder. "Back by the pumps." I peered past him, and that's when I saw an old blue sedan, battered and rusted around the wheel wells, sitting awkwardly near the farthest pump. The thing was, it hadn't been there a minute ago, I was sure of it. I'd been glancing out the window compulsively all night. I'd seen nothing. And now, somehow, a car. Parked crookedly, headlights off. I swallowed, throat dry. "Kinda snuck up on me," I joked weakly, trying to mask the edge in my voice. The man didn't smile. He just watched me. I almost convinced myself I was being paranoid, until I noticed movement near the car. Behind it. Just a flicker, a shadow shifting where there shouldn't be one. I swear, someone else was back there. My fingers slid under the counter, feeling for the emergency alarm button we were trained to use only in the most extreme situations. "All right," I said, voice steady. "Let me grab my coat." I took one step toward the back room and jammed my thumb onto the alarm. The store lights immediately began to strobe red, and a deafening siren blared to life. The man didn't flinch. He simply turned, smooth as water, and walked back out into the night, past the car, past the pumps, toward the dense tree line that bordered the station. Another figure, someone smaller, wearing what looked like a backpack, darted after him, vanishing into the woods. The police arrived within minutes. I was still shaking when I let them inside. They searched the woods, the surrounding roads, the nearby fields. Found nothing. The sedan, though. The sedan was theirs. Turns out it had been reported stolen a week earlier, from a town over an hour away. No fingerprints inside, no personal belongings, just a ripped back seat, a busted radio, and the faint, lingering smell of cigarette smoke. The police took my statement, took the security footage, told me I'd done good triggering the alarm. But they also told me, with grim faces, that it was unlikely they'd find the men. Too much open land, too many places to vanish. That night, I packed up my locker before my shift even ended, called my manager the next morning and quit for good. I'd loved the quiet before. I thought it meant safety. Now the quiet feels like something else entirely. Like the moments right before something terrible happens.